Oh yeah! What is up, people? Half Slab Bacon here with my fully AFK Blaze Rod and XP farm. Guys, please note, as this is a very advanced farm, I will not be doing it block by block. Instead, I will be showcasing the farm, explaining each component, and there will be a world download for the farm in the description so that you can download it and use that as your template for building it in your world. The reason is simple. One, it'll take me like 2 hours in video to do a block by block on this, and two, it's going to be difficult to follow. You'll still need the download to be able to reproduce this anyways. So instead, I'm going to explain, which should be simpler for you to follow, and you'll have the world download so that it's easier to build. Note that this farm will continue to work. There are no bugs used. This works with solid gameplay mechanics. It does align with max entity cramming, so it will work regardless of what your value for that is in any world. However, you have to make sure you build it exact. If you run into issues, reference the world download and make sure everything is identical. So guys, let's get to it. This farm is late game. It takes a lot of resources, and it also requires you have a witch farm in your world and a mushroom farm because of the potions you're going to need. Now, I'm going to actually go ahead and switch the world to peaceful at this moment so that we're not getting frame rate issues from the entities clogging up. So the concept was simple, the design advanced. What I wanted was to move them out of the spawn check area lightning quick so that we're always getting max spawning, max possible rates, and move them into a kill chamber that was within range of your AFK spot. Most Blaze farms are not, and do so without them taking any damage on the way down. Then we needed a way to consistently and affordably kill them while fully AFK, which is where having a potion system on a timer came in. Let's go ahead and switch to game mode 3 so I can fly through and I can show you. So, Slimebox Sweeper was the deciding factor for moving them. Then we had to get them into a kill chamber. I tested many different sizes with max cramming, and in order to use as few potions as possible and also guarantee that my timing wouldn't crash certain people's computers, I opted for a 5x2 spacing. Note that we push down to 5x3, but then when it comes time for the kill, you can see it condenses it into 5x2. Note it also stops funneling blazes into the area before it starts the crusher, so that the ones on the side do not take any damage and are available for the next round. Occasionally, you will get one that takes some potion damage, but it's very rare and minimal, so the loss is almost non-existent. It's almost 100% efficient. From the sweeper, the system works by having 2 double piston extenders and a slime block pusher to move them down a layer, and then 2 single piston extenders and another slime block pusher. And as you can see, it's a 2-stage mover. It moves them down 2 layers depending on where they are at each time. Now, the slime blocks were critical in my testing. Using anything else to push them, they would, when numbers got high and the frame rate started lowering, they would occasionally glitch into blocks and take suffocation location damage. Also note that I am pushing them at the feet, not at the head height. This was also critical to ensure that they were taking no damage on the way down into our crusher. In order to get all of this in sync, it required several different clocks. One for the slime block sweeper, of course, a separate one for mob crushing. Many advanced redstoners will look at this crusher timer and recognize it immediately. That's the one down there on the bottom. And in addition, a hopper timer to determine when the crushing occurs. Yet, a hopper timer with 5 stacks was simply not enough. Anyone that knows them knows your max time is about 3 and change. So I extended that by adding a dropper with a series of hoppers wrapped around it, and using that as a toggleable T flip-flop to lock or engage the rest of the system. Those are your core timers. The rest is simply redstone layout to get it there. How do I recommend building this, guys? You're going to want to start up here as usual. You're going to want to build this cage and work your way down. It is not easy to do in survival. It takes a ton of time, but I can tell you it is well worth it. I've run this several times already in my survival world, and I don't have issues running to my old school Blaze Farm anymore just to get fuel. I mainly go just when I'm in the area to quickly repair picks, etc. So, let's start kind of where the redstone begins and work our way from there. So you can see the button here. Anyone with advanced redstone knowledge would notice I have set up a basic T flip-flop off a button. You could use a lever. I hate the way levers work, so I used a button, T flip-flop, to turn the system on and off. From there, we actually had to extend the signal to start and stop the various timers. So that's what this mess of wires is here, is going to the various timers. Note, this is version 1 of my concept. I will probably improve this in the coming years, compact it, make it even more efficient. However, I will likely change the concept slightly in order to do so. This could be made a little bit more compact than it is, but it is extremely compact for what it does, and it does what it does completely flawlessly. So, from there, the signal, when it's in an on state, powered state, locks all the timers. When it turns off, it engages them, allows this hopper clock to start, which times how often we get our potions and how often the crusher goes off. I have used 4 stacks in this. Note, you're going to want to run this in your world to see where your frame rate is and either speed it up or slow it down to your needs. If you're running a high-end i7 with, say, a GTX 1080, you could probably get away with extending this to a full 5 stacks and have the kill a little less frequently. If you have a weaker computer, you're going to want to run it at anywhere from 2 to 3 stacks, maybe 2.5 would probably be good for most. This should have 2 items in it, okay? That doubles the time of your hopper timer. So at 5 stacks, this would double it up to, say, 7.5, 8.5 minutes. I've currently got it running at just shy of 7 minutes. It's about 6.5 minutes, 10 potions an hour. Pretty good overall in terms of cost. Now, in terms of where our power signal goes from there, you can see that it splits and it goes in multiple directions. So we'll discuss the core components from here. It goes off here into this timer here, and this is actually a quick timer that is running our piston extensions on the side. You'll notice that it disables a torch, which gets this comparator clock going, and then that simply extends off either side. onto our piston extenders. Most people will see this as a basic double piston extension layout. You will also note that you're going to want this on 4 ticks to have the timing correct here. The whole thing runs off this torch tower, which powers off to the various circuits and is identical on both sides. So 4 ticks on that side, 4 ticks on that side. The double piston extension is identical on both sides, and you can see where it powers underneath here to get to that lower piston extension with the slime blocks. Not overly complicated for an advanced redstoner, so I will leave it with you there. The signal also travels upwards and disables our lava. Up top, you can see I've used a simple observer tower to toggle the state of our droppers with the lava, or dispensers, sorry, with the lava on and off. And at the same time, that signal also starts our clock for our sweeper arm. This one is incredibly important. Every single part has to be exact or it will not work. You can see it's a rapid fire repeater clock that goes up twice. It sends a 1-tick pulse through the wire and then a 2-tick pulse immediately after. And that's what allows this piston to go back and forth with this sweeper to go back and forth with 2 simple pistons. Sorry guys, that I got the wording wrong there. So very important this gets laid out exact with 1 tick down here, and with this exact layout, 1 tick on each, 2 ticks there, the wire running up that way, slabs, not full blocks, or it will not work properly. You have to have this piston as well as that piston toggling it on and off, or it will not work correctly. The layout has to work, has to be exact, guys. Now, this little guy here is just an extension timer. We will get to that in a little bit. It is there to control the timing for the crusher and gets a little tricky with the wiring where it goes. Here is our core crusher timer. You will notice it goes up into a torch tower to run over to our pistons and our crusher system. And you will notice it also goes this way. You can see it goes back up. This wire is just a manual override, guys. This button here, what it does is it runs back down and sets the crusher timer off manually, so that should you finish your AFK session and you just want to shut the farm off and go, but you've got, 50 blazes in there because you didn't let it finish the cycle, you can shut the farm off after pushing that button and killing off the entities there, so you still get the blaze rods instead of walking away and letting them despawn. So this wire is not absolutely essential. You could walk away, and if you unload them quickly enough, they might still be there next time you get back, or they might despawn, but I prefer not to waste even 3 minutes at the farm. So I added that in. Now, where it dips underneath this with repeaters and you see it come over to another basic comparator clock with a 4-tick going into a torch tower here, this is what releases our potion into our hand. So you use the same concept here as you do for AFK fishing, the F11 trick, holding down to lock your right mouse button. If you're not sure how to do that, guys, Azuma did a quick video explaining it. I will link that in the description as well, but most people should be familiar with the F11 trick, I believe. It's a very old trick that still works. So that's how that extends and why that extends there. You can see this torch here is linked up to our dropper, sending everything around. That extends our etho clock timing. So When all of those go around and this is completely empty, when it fires the last one, it will power this torch, which powers that dust, which shuts this torch off, which turns that torch on. Very briefly, I might add, because the items are going to flow back. You can see when that torch goes off, it unlocks this hopper, allowing them to flow back. So we get a very quick monostable pulse, which starts our clock here. In turn, that's going to turn that torch off for the duration of the clock and send the signal over here. That finds its way up this torch tower into this extension timer. This extension timer splits off in a couple of different directions. You can see it goes over here through these repeaters, and that is what fires our back wall here and pushes them forward and locks them in place into our 5x2 area. And you can see after it fires that, it also goes up into this repeater bed here. The number of repeaters and the 4-tick delay on them is very essential here. That is to give the top crusher enough time before it fires, to wait before it fires, for the sides to finish moving into place and lock, and our back wall here to push them all forward for the crushing before it drops the actual crusher in place. You can see, to minimize components used, I actually used only one piston here, powered by our repeaters, and slime blocks. Yes, the slime blocks will suffocate them when their head is inside it. They work just fine. That allowed me to use only one piston, keep the lag to a minimum, and get our 5x2 series of blocks there. Now, back down to what this bad boy does. Well, it locks everything in place. You can see we've got, actually, perfect, 2 things going on here. There's a comparator clock, but you can also see the repeaters lock the clock and don't allow it to depower until that clock is finished running. And what that does is it keeps the rest of it locked in place until that is finished crushing, and then allows the sides to start moving so that absolutely no blazes flow back into this kill chamber until the rest are dead after we fired our potion. Okay, that signal is split off here. You can see the repeater here that comes down and locks our timer for our piston extensions that push them down into the system. It's a lot going on, guys, I know. But that is, in short and sweet, the best way to explain all of it. So, very complicated, I know, but it is what it took. You can see kind of the default on state for everything right now. Let's go down and look at the collection area. Now you can see what I've done here is the hoppers go completely underneath. Even though these pistons push forward, we've got the soul sand underneath them as well, so that if blaze rods glitch through the pistons when the kill is executed, it collects all of them. From there they move. You can see they've got them underneath the slab as well, all the way across. I did find the occasional one would glitch off of our soul sand and over to here, and that is why they run directly across that first row of slabs into our chests as well. Now, in terms of the soul sand, this is essential, guys. It has to be soul sand to just use hoppers underneath. If not, you would have to add a hopper minecart, which is going to further reduce your FPS and minimize how many you're going to be able to collect. In addition, you will notice I've got double trap doors here in between our slabs. These are essential for the XP to travel. I tried using slabs there and just having the trap doors to collect from your chests, and what I found was the XP was getting caught in between the slabs and the trapdoors. So in order to have all the XP come and the trapdoors there to collect from the chests, it had to be 2 rows so they can travel along them and get through this little crack here where the chests are into your body while you're AFK. Otherwise, you're going to have the XP entities collecting and further reducing your FPS, which is not what you want. Do note that if you build down far enough, you could put slabs here and eliminate this collection area altogether and just have slabs there, and you could build these chests down into a collection area down here. But that would require you, you know, moving away from your AFK area to collect your rods. Personally, I like it this way, so after an AFK session, I can just drop my shulker boxes and collect. I did not put an automatic shulker box loading system into this. You certainly could have them just run into shulkers underneath and put an automatic system that would break them when they're full and everything. There's a lot of redstone here, so I wanted to minimize it and only have the core essential parts. But by all means, if you want to take it the next step farther, please feel free. Feel free. Also note, guys, this torch position is essential. If you put it underneath, it will still fire, but you're going to budge your hoppers, which means the chests will not be able to fill them properly, and you'll run out of potions, not because your chests are empty, but because your droppers are empty. Now, 2 chests is going to give you like enough, 2 chests full of potions is going to give you enough for an overnight session. You know, like 8 hours change, depending on if you change the timer to align with your world. If you want to speed it up to minimize your frame hit because you have a weaker system, you're going to want to add more chests. So, you know, put a hopper here into these chests and add another double chest on each side. If you want to go longer, you will get more. By changing the timing, you're going to alter the amount of potions you use, so you're going to have to gauge it for yourself. With the timing I have, that'll get you about 8 hours, which I think is a pretty good session if you ask me. So let's go ahead and let's pop into game mode 1 here quickly and just shut the system off so I can show you the resting state before we go. Oh, I back to game mode 3, bacon. I derped, sorry guys. So, as you can see, when we shut the system off, it does dispense the lava. You don't have to worry about that destroying this. I tried using sand in this area, and I realized after I did my survival, probably the best way to shut the farm off, guys, would be to use leaves. Actually, I would highly recommend using leaves to fill in your spawnable area and shut the farm off. You would have to use solid blocks first and then break them and put the leaves in. But I would recommend using leaves and then going in and building this. And you can put your slime sweeper in from underneath and then kind of, you know, duck in and go. And then when you go up and dispense the lava for the first time, it'll burn the leaves and get them out of your way. That's probably the safest way to do it. I wish I had thought of that before I built this in my survival world and not after. If you didn't see the video, check it out on my channel. It was pretty funny. I derped up pretty hard. It's a thing. Yeah, so in its off state, you can see these are extended, and the timing, guys, actually alternates. So these will push them into the center before the slimes push out. That way they are not taking any damage in between those two. And these look, when you're watching the farm go, they look like they fire at the exact same time, but they actually do not. These will extend first, and then these extend after. And you can see what happens is they would be down at this block, so it pushes them this way, and then it extends and pushes them over here. And then when it retracts, that glass moves back and they get pushed down this way. and then finally pushed in. So that's why you've got that glass. It is intentional, so we get 2 movements out of 1 piston extension, again to minimize the amount of redstone required. The torch tower was simply the most efficient way of moving this up. I will talk about opportunities to compact this as a finishing. So in all fairness, I could move most of these timers directly underneath and probably get away with running these long lengths of runs. Would be shorter. That would be it, guys. That would be the only opportunity to really compact it, would be to squish these long runs here. The rest is already as compact as it is, and when I was building it, I kind of put the clocks as close as possible to where they needed to function. So that led to having some of these long runs of wire. The clocks themselves are as compact as they can get. If you would notice, I'm using slabs here because this clock is actually touching that clock. So in terms of the clocks and efficiency, they're as compact as they can get. This layout here is already as compact as you can get for running the various piston extensions. And I didn't think it was worth moving all these clocks down and building additional towers, because you can see we've already got, 3 different towers going on here. I would have to, if I moved all these underneath, I would have to add even more. So we would gain some redstone distance traveled in terms of vertical or horizontal length, but we would lose it on towers going up. And that's why I decided to leave it as is. It really is compact for what it is. Mind you, it's not small. It's a pretty massive build, guys, if you take a look at the block placement. Of course, if you do it in survival, that ceiling is not required. It is required in this world because it's a void world and I had to block the sun. So that's it, guys. That is the build. The core concepts are a hopper timer with a dropper hopper extension to control when our crusher timer goes off, our crusher timer, an extension to that crusher timer to lock the sides and to lock this back wall, and a timer, rapid timer, to move our sweeper arm back and forth. Yes, a lot of clocks doing a lot of things all at once, I know. And finally, our comparator clock that controls the rate at which these move back and forth. And of course, further delay on the repeaters in various settings just to make sure it's all compact. So guys, that's about as well as I can explain everything that is going on. If you do have questions, feel free to drop a line in the comments and I will help out as best as I can. Note that these trapdoors here are not optional. If you leave it out a full block, the guys will aggro. So yes, slabs and trapdoors are essential. Every block placed here is essential. The glass on the outsides is not absolutely essential. That was done in this world to make everything highly visible. You could use whatever block you wanted in your survival world. The glass is the only part that is not absolutely essential, save of course, the 2 over here to prevent them from spawning up top. Every other block, whether it's a slab or whatever, is essential for this farm to work. There was over 100 hours in designing and perfecting this. So if you try and build it and it doesn't work, you likely misdid something. Excuse me, go back to the world download. Wow, I'm a floating head. And double check and make sure you've got everything exact. because it is very complicated. Everything has to be exact. If you do have issues, try that first. If you're just not sure on something, feel free to ask me in the comments or questions. But because of how complex the world is, it's going to be very difficult for me to troubleshoot it over a comment section, guys. That's what the world download is there for. I hope you enjoy it. It is a difficult build, but it is very, very, very worth it. Let me tell you, as the designer and the guy that uses it in my world. Anyways, guys, smash that like if you enjoyed the showcase / non-block tutorial to help others like yourself who might enjoy the content find the channel. And if you're new and you haven't already, hit that sub button, peeps. We do awesome builds like this all the time on the channel. As always, thanks for watching. Bye.